Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. This is a compilation video of some of my greatest hits. Hope y'all enjoy them. Psychic powers. And there's been a lot of movies made about this and a lot of, superhero movies and stuff with people with psychic powers and all kinds of stuff. The character, the Scarlet Witch off of the Avengers, she can read minds. She can, she's got telepathy and like that. That's one of her abilities. The lots and lots of different psychokinetic abilities out there. The movie Firestarter, I think they're doing a remake of it, but the original one was pretty good. There's lots of really great movies about that. But I'm talking about real life psychic powers. Now, this is a controversial topic because there's many people out there that believe that this is total hogwash. You cannot read someone's mind. You cannot see the dead. It's just crap. Because they have a lot of those TV programs, paranormal programs, where they're hunting ghosts and they bring in a medium, or it's a demon. We got to have somebody to fight it, so they bring in a medium or whatever. And a lot of people think it's just hogwash. But, and in full disclosure, I don't buy all of it. I honestly don't. But there is something to it, and I'm going to get into that here in a little bit. Psychic powers include things such as astral projection, clairaudience, clairvoyance, divination, precognition, mediumship, psychic channeling, psychometry, scrying, telekinesis, telepathy, and other such powers. Off of this list, they talk about a thing called precognition, meaning people who can tell the future. And I did a video on what's called deja vu, and I may have mentioned it in there. There are times when something will happen and I'll remember it, but I'll remember dreaming about it. But the problem with that is I don't remember the dream until it's actually happening, which kind of goes against the whole point of precognition if you can't cognition the pre. You see what I'm saying? If you don't remember it, what good is it? So in that respect, I'm kind of on the fence on that one. But there's other things that happen that are verified, documented. A lot of this stuff it's hard to prove. You can't really. There's no way to quantify. Can this person actually talk to spirits? Can these people summon and see entities? Because they're invisible, you can't see them. Well, I can see them. Well, how do you know you can see them? You see what I'm saying? There's no proof. Can people channel spirits? That's the old, where the seance where they charge money to talk to your dead loved ones or whatever. See, that's just crap right there. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm not giving my money to somebody who says they can talk to my dead aunt or whatever. Now, there's another aspect of this that the military, I know, did experiment with. It's called remote viewing. It's a form of scrying. I've seen a lot of videos on that. There are people who swear that it's true. There's an organization in California that actually still does it for the private sector. Excuse me. Again, I can't verify whether that's true or not. And for those of you who don't know what remote viewing is, it's where somebody sits alone in a room with a piece of paper and you give them a bit of information on something, like a guy's name or a doctor's name or a scientist, and then he sits down and he starts drawing pictures. And he'll draw a bunch of pictures or write words, make marks somehow, either writing words, drawing pictures, whatever. And the idea being, this guy's supposed to be able to psychically divine, to scry on where this guy's at, what he's doing, that kind of thing. The military did experiment with that. Excuse me. I don't know how far they got. I don't know what all they can or cannot do with it. So I'm not going to verify that one way or the other. However, there is something to psychometry and clairvoyance, object reading. And here's the reason we know there's something to it. Remember, I was talking about the documented stuff. Here we go. There have been lots of police investigations which have hit dead ends. And when they hit a dead end and they can't possibly figure anything else out, a lot of times the police will call in a psychic. And they'll have a guy's shoe or a shirt that they found or something. And this person will get psychic impressions off of that, and they have found a way, and they use that information to solve the crime. That has, in fact, happened. There have been crimes that have been solved and criminals caught using this. So, and we're talking documented cases. This isn't hearsay. This is how we did it right here. You know, we were at a dead end. We called in this guy as a last-ditch effort. Boom, here we go. Are there hoaxers? Of course there are. Are there charlatans? Yes. Are there documented cases where the shit actually worked? Yes. So, we know there is something to it. I wouldn't recommend giving your money to the guy down the street who says he can talk to your dead aunt. But saying there's nothing to it at all is wrong. There is something to this. Automatic writing. For those of you who don't know, automatic writing is also called psychography. 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 The idea is that with certain techniques, a person can become attuned to a higher consciousness, which allows him or her to write without consciously writing. The writing is supposed to answer questions and impart information otherwise unattainable. This higher consciousness that they're mentioning here is the sum. Let's see if I can get this. It's the sum of all knowledge of every person who has ever died. So if somebody was alive and died, all their knowledge that they learned goes into this greater consciousness. And you can apparently, for lack of a better word, commune with certain individuals who have passed, or maybe as a general whole, that amount of knowledge. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I've never done it, never even tried. Many scientists feel, of course, that this is all complete hogwash bullshit. However, and certainly this writing would be easy to fake until the information was tested. A lot of people find that these people who have done this automatic writing have done a lot of research on something, but it haven't told anyone, and suddenly and then later on it's found out that they've done research. So certainly there are hoaxers out there, and this would be easy to hoax. It would be easy to fake. But many charlatans are using this automatic writing to scam people out of their hard-earned money, and there's no arguments there. There are scam artists out there pretending to be psychics or using this automatic writing or whatever. However, there have been many examples of practitioners using automatic writing to locate things long lost, such as building foundations and archaeological sites, lost items, etc. Now, when I say it's easy to fake until the information was tested, that's a very narrow parameter, because anything you want to know about, somebody probably knows about. You can find out information about it. What you really need to test this information is for the information to be something that there's no way anybody could know about. Something that only one or two people knew and they died hundreds of years ago. That kind of thing. There's no way, it was completely lost. There's nobody kept any records, that kind of thing. And then somebody does automatic writing. Oh, look, here it is. And then they go find it. That kind of thing. Things like that have happened. And I'm not saying this is real or not, but let me give you an example here. There was a man named Frederick Bligh Bond. He was a 19th century British architect, archaeologist, and illustrator. He held a position at a prestigious university, and he was an archaeologist, and he was finding all kinds of stuff. He found a number of different things that people had no idea where they were. Some people, Some of the things he found, people didn't even know didn't even know they ever existed. Much less that it's not like they were lost and he had a few clues. Oh, look, let's dig over there. Yeah, boom, there it is. No, this is like dig over there. You'll find something, and they dig. Oh crap, what is this? That kind of thing. Nobody knew it was there. There were no records kept. That kind of thing. This guy did it a lot. He most notably he located the Glastonbury Edgar Chapel in 1907. Nobody else had a clue where this thing was. There no records existed, and for this to be faked, he would have had a way to know where that was. But there's no records. Nobody, I dare say nobody or very few people knew it even existed. So either he's the luckiest archaeologist ever, or that there is something to this. Okay, and I'm not making any claims one way or the other, but there's too much direct evidence to discount it completely. So if you know somebody who can do this automatic writing, it's not hard to test them. All you got to do is take what they write, what they're claiming, what they write, and then check it. Could they have found this information out? Is this information available to find out? That kind of thing. If not, then it's possible. Then you have to verify if what they've written is actually true. Okay? If it is, and there's no way they could have known about it, you got to kind of lend some credence to it. They're not pulling it out of the air. Well, maybe they are. I don't know. Because apparently that's what automatic writing does. But my contention is they couldn't have just made it up. You see what I'm saying? So, automatic writing, is it real or not? I don't know. But there's a lot of people who've had some significant success with it. For those of you who don't know what remote viewing is essentially people enter a certain state. There are techniques that get you into a certain state of mind. And you take a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen or whatever, and you start drawing pictures. And these pictures, the idea is you concentrate on a target, and then you draw these pictures, and these pictures will either tell you where it is, what it's doing, information about that target. Remote viewing is the practice of seeking impressions about a distant or unseen target using the subconscious. It used to be believed that only powerful psychics could do this, but evidently that it has been discovered that pretty much anyone can do it. I have never done it. I've never tried to do it, so I can't say yay or nay about it. Early practitioners of this called it, let me see if I can get this right, telesthesia. 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 I didn't name it. That's what they called it. Sorry, cats. The U.S. military, back in the 1960s through the early 2000s, had an extensive program utilizing remote viewing, and it was titled Project Stargate. They had some degree of success with it. They were finding downed airplanes, and they were essentially seeing what foreign scientists were working on, that kind of thing. And from rooms here, thousands of miles away kind of thing. They made some films about it, more or less based on it. One of them was called The Men Who Stare at Goats, a really great movie, funny movie. A lot of great people in there, good cast. And another film called Suspect Zero. I have not seen that one, but apparently it was influenced by this as well. Some of the more famous remote viewers include a man named Edgar Casey. Edgar Casey is very, very big in paranormal talk radio. He's dead now, but people still talk about him. Joseph McMoneagle, McMoneagle, Pat Price, and Courtney Brown. I've not heard of these other three people. Most of the scientific community basically believes that remote viewing is hogwash. They don't put any stock in it whatsoever. However, one cannot ignore the proven successes reported by military and government remote viewers. Like I said, there was a remote viewer who found a downed plane that was hundreds of miles off course. They had no idea where it was, and this person found that plane. There's other reports said something about a scientist working on a new chemical formula or something, and they were able to glean it remotely. Another report said something to the effect of a scientist was traveling from point A to point B, and by air on an airplane, and the remote viewer was able to tell where they were traveling from and to, and that allowed them to be able to intercept this guy and help him to defect. Those are the reports that I've heard, because this guy was in Soviet Russia at the time. So those are the reports that I've heard. It is because of the downed airplane, as I understand it. There were some people who would have died if that plane hadn't been found. So there are people alive today due to remote viewing. So you really can't discount it because of the successes they've had. It may not make a lot of sense to a lot of people, and I understand completely, but you cannot argue with success. If it works, there's got to be something to it. Ghost photography. For those of you who don't know what that is, people all over the world take pictures, and they see faint, for lack of a better word, apparitions or figures standing off to the side in the background, whatever. People sometimes believe that those may not be real people, or they may be spirits, is what I'm getting at. Ghosts. And I don't know how true any of it is. I honestly don't. But I'm doing a video on it because it pairs with my other one that I just did on the EVPs. Okay, if it can be recorded audibly, it may be able to be recorded visually. Okay, so here we go. Back in 1861, a man named William H. Mumler, Mumler, it is believed took the first ghost photograph. He is considered the father of ghost photography. He initially thought that it was something wrong with the photo, basically something on the lens, bad plates, whatever, because in 1861, photography wasn't your Polaroid they got now. Okay, it was a big process. You had the tripod with the big blah blah on there. So basically, he thought it was just something wrong with a camera, something on the plates, that kind of thing. Many people who knew him basically thought the apparition resembled Mumler's dead cousin. So he started taking ghost photography and made a big deal of it, and now it's worldwide. Now, let's be clear. The vast majority of these ghost photographers are frauds and hoaxers. Let's not mince words. A lot of them are. Okay? If you see somebody who you don't know and is, I got a ghost photographer, take it with a grain of salt. He may not be lying, but, there's no way to prove it. And there's millions of ways to make these fake photos. So, keep that in mind. However, in modern times, any idiot with a 10-minute tutorial in Photoshop can create one. It's ridiculous. However, there are thousands and thousands of people, including law enforcement officers, who have taken photos that include ghostly figures and demonic figures. Now, I did a video on demonic activity. Go check that out. In the Indiana house, Fox News reported that there was a kid in the ER. The mom took the kid in there, and in full view of the ER staff, the kid walked backwards up a wall. They're thinking he was possessed, and he walked backwards up a wall. It's kind of hard to dispute that. Law enforcement officers went into the basement of that home and took photographs. One of these at least one of them, showed under the stairwell what looked like a demonic figure with red glowing eyes. Now, the police, these are police photographers, okay? Professionals. You don't claim something and it not be, you not have something to back you up. That's all I'm saying. If we can't trust law enforcement photographers, who can we trust? You see what I'm saying? Also, if you've seen the movie or read the books, the Amityville Horror, a lot of people think that was a hoax. That was just a money-making scheme. And I don't know. I can't say for sure. I know something happened in that house that wasn't right. You cannot go room to room with a hunting rifle or a shotgun, depending on which story you listen to, and shooting people while they're asleep and nobody wake up and go, holy crap, and jump out the window. Something was keeping those people asleep. Regardless of who did the shooting or why they did it, you can't, that right there defies the laws of physics. Unless they're all deaf, which they weren't. None of them were on drugs, none of them had drugs in their system, none was drunk. You see what I'm saying? Somebody would have woke up and said, holy crap, and jumped out the window and ran away. Didn't happen. He killed 6 people going room to room with a hunting rifle, or depending on your story, hunting rifle or a shotgun. My contention is something was keeping those people asleep. Now, later on, real estate people are trying to sell the house, so they're going through the house taking photos. The real estate photographer was taking pictures of the inside of the house, and in one of the photos, in the back by the stairwell, you can clearly see it. There's a figure of a little kid leaning out, and the house is empty, right? There's a figure leaning out. It looks like a little kid leaning out, and he's got red glowing eyes. Now, nobody was in the house. That was verified. There was nobody in the house. It only showed up in one photo in a succession of photos. Can you photograph ghosts? I don't know. You should be able to record them, because I heard one audibly. At least I believe it was. If you can record it audibly, you should be able to record it visually. There's got to be something to this. When you have law enforcement officers and people who aren't looking to make money off of it saying, oh, look at this photo, what can you say? People have recorded photos, have gotten photos where they see shapes that look like they're deceased animals, cats, dogs, that kind of thing. Deceased people behind them, weird looking demonic people behind them. I'm just saying, my contention is I think there's something to it. I don't believe that they're all on the up and up, but there's definitely something to the phenomenon. Faceless humans. And I hadn't even heard about these again till I was watching a paranormal video the other day, and then I did a little research, and apparently these things are quite prevalent. I would imagine that this phenomena could be described as a cryptid. I don't know. They may, later on, I found some other stuff that says they may be somewhat related to shadow men. I'm going to do a video on that here shortly. But at any rate, let's get on to the meat of this. People have been reporting seeing odd people in strange places. And these odd people in strange places have no facial features. The people, it's like they're unfinished wax figures. They look human except no faces. Hence the faceless humans. Excuse me. These figures are seen in daytime and nighttime. They're seen in forests, roadsides, parked cars, inside parked cars, in parks, in parking lots, even in people's bedrooms. They've seen these things in their bedrooms. It's freaky. These things are various sizes between 3 and 10 feet tall, usually thin. They're male or female. Sometimes they are followed by an intense odor, like a dead animal or something like that. A lot of people think this is some sort of a maybe ghost or demonic activity. I don't know. Sometimes these faceless humans are seen floating in the air. At any rate, they have odd clothing styles, from Victorian clothing to cut-off jeans to hoodies. I mean, it's just a wide variety of different things. Witnesses have reported being paralyzed with fear and being unable to scream. So I'm thinking they might be related to the shadow men, and I'm gonna do a video on that. So again, check that one out. But the part that gets me is the witnesses. Here's the thing. Most witnesses who report these have never heard about them. So like I'd never heard of them. They're average people like truck drivers, housewives, accountants, mechanics. And again, they're not aware of other such reports. They just see them. Truck driver's going down the road. He sees one by the side of the road looking at him. With the face, turns and follows the truck. I don't know if he's looking at him or not. He got no eyes, but I'm just saying. And people have reported being followed by them. This guy, one individual woke up and looked over and could see out the door and across the hallway in the dark to another door across the hall, and this being was standing there, and it kept getting closer and closer, and then it was gone. So these things seem to be somewhat supernatural. They're obviously not human per se, because humans don't get to be 10 feet tall generally, and humans have faces. But because of the variety of the reports and where they're at, and the numbers that are being reported now, and the variety of the people who are reporting them, if it's a hoax, it's a well coordinated and organized hoax, because they're all over the world. A lot of places in the United States. If these things are focusing on an area, it would probably be North America, because you get these reports here, and you get them in other places too, but mostly are in North America. So, all that being said, we don't know what these things are. I don't know if they're dangerous or not, but for your safety, I would suggest staying away. It's called spontaneous human combustion. I kind of hesitated doing this video because I wasn't sure if I had enough information, and then out of the blue I happened to see a documentary on it, so I got some information here, and I want to do it because it's a real thing. I'm not people's. It's quite possible this is an effect that just hasn't been explained yet. That's a possibility, but it's still, at this point, it's still unexplained. So here we go. Unexplained phenomena. Here we go. For those of you who don't know, spontaneous human combustion is the phenomena wherein human beings, living or recently deceased, suddenly burst into flames with no external source of ignition. So your body just bursts into flames for no reason. And the topic received coverage. This is a big deal. A lot of people think it's a hoax, or it's just shoddy investigation or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, the topic received coverage in 1823 when it appeared in a book titled, Medical Jurisprudence. This book listed commonalities including the victims are chronic alcoholics. The victims are usually elderly females. The hands and feet usually fall off. The fire causes very little damage to combustible things in contact with the body, like the clothing and like that. Cloth chairs that they're sitting in, the big stuff, overstuffed chairs, the curtains, things like that. It doesn't generally mess with that. And the combustion of the body basically leaves a residue of greasy and fetid ashes, which are offensively odorous. So the residue stinks. The first case. Get over here. Several hundred cases have been recorded since the 1400s, so it is extremely rare. Many scientists, some of which have done extensive and serious investigations, claim that there are usually outside sources of ignition that have been conspicuously omitted from the reports. So essentially, they're saying that the people investigating this wanted it to be mysterious. And that 500 years ago, what the hell, It may very well be. I don't know. But the first case ever reported of this was a knight named, let me get his name right here, Polonus Vorstius, Polonus, Polonus, Vorstius. Vorstius. Polonus Vorstius, I guess. He was standing in front of his parents, and he burst into flames. This guy was a knight. I don't know if he was wearing his armor or not, but there you go. And the alcoholism may actually be a factor in this as well, because back in the day they drank a lot, especially the upper crust people drank a lot of wine and things like that because the water wasn't real great. Happened a lot in the Old West. People got a lot of gallstones because, kidney stones, things like that, because the water wasn't real clean. They didn't have water processing plants, so you go down and you get a bucket of water out of the river and drink it. That was, and it was good water to drink, but it didn't taste great. You know what I'm saying? So they drank a lot of non-water liquids, a lot of wine, a lot of in the Old West, a lot of whiskey, things like that, and so that's where you get your kidney stones and things like that. But this knight, being upper crust, being a knight, he may very well have had some wine. And that being said, he may have drank a lot of wine. You don't know. But that would fit with the chronic alcoholic thing. There have been many natural and scientific theories for the phenomena, including cigarettes. You're smoking a cigarette and you drop it and it lights you on fire. Self-immolation, a form of suicide where you just set yourself on fire. But I don't like that idea, because if you're going to set yourself on fire, chances are you're using an accelerant. And the accelerant would have... other stuff around you would have been burned as well. Like the chair you're sitting in, the curtains, that kind of thing. And then there's this thing called the wick effect, where your clothing smolders and slowly cooks the fat in the body. That'd be a hell of a bad way to go. I wouldn't want to just shoot me in the head, Some alternate theories have been proposed, including, get this, poltergeist activity and ball lightning. I don't know how much of that is true. I don't know what would be feasible or not. But, like I said, 200 cases, it's extremely rare, but it does happen. Ancient Explorers video. And the title in here is a little bit misleading because it's not really unexplained. It's just... well, I guess it was unexplained if they knew and didn't explain it. But my contention is there's a lot we don't know. So, basically what it boils down to is this. When I was in school, I learned that global exploration began in the early 1400s with European explorers making grand expeditions and discovering new continents. I learned in school that Columbus discovered America in 1492. And they referred to America as the New World. Problem is, China discovered America 70 years earlier. And before that, Vikings had been coming here long before that. So, and so long ago, we're not sure when they showed up. But we find all kinds of Viking artifacts, and the Vikings landed up in the Northeast and explored all over the place. So, we're finding Viking stuff everywhere across North America. So, yeah, that was... yeah, the public schools, what can you say? Okay. I also learned that James Clark Ross discovered Antarctica in 1841. Excuse me. Then you go back before that, you find out that the Maori have stories. The Maori are people who are right now in New Zealand, and before that they were in other Polynesian areas. And they have stories of ancient Polynesian explorers who traveled south to a land of bitter cold, where rock-like structures rose from solid ice, and there were icebergs. They traveled south and hit icebergs. And these stories predate the Maori settling in New Zealand. Okay? So, the Maori were out there getting it done too. The Polynesian people were out there exploring just as well as we were, even before. On top of that, I did a video on this one. The Piri Reis map from 1513 clearly shows Antarctica accurately. Someone knew it and was there and had charted inland mountains and other landmarks. Because we're talking some seriously accurate cartography there. I did a video on this. And this was 300 years, more than 300 years before James Clark Ross discovered it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff they didn't tell us in school. We're also told that Ferdinand Magellan circumnavigated the globe from 1519 to 1522. He actually died on that voyage. Unfortunately, the Chinese explorers circumnavigated the globe 100 years before that. There was and I can't remember which one it was, but there was a Chinese ruler who sent a massive fleet out, one of the biggest fleets ever, and said, go find the edge of the world, basically, and they all took off different directions. I want to say he was trying to, basically the idea was go find the barbarians on the other side of the world and collect tribute from them, more or less. So he was looking to expand the Chinese domain. But this was 100 years before Magellan. Also, Indian and Hindu explorers went all over the place. They're everywhere. They have maps detailing Asia and Europe and a whole bunch of other places. Roman ships have been found sunk off the coast of South America. So they were crossing the Atlantic during Roman times. And we don't hear about this stuff. You know, we have to find out about it. Oh my God, look what they just found. You know, that kind of thing. Basically what this boils down to is people think of the oceans in ancient times as being barriers. And that apparently wasn't the case. Evidently, they really were highways, allowing people to travel from point A to point B. And our ancestors really, really wanted to find out what the world was like, because you want to talk a leap of faith, get in a leaky boat, essentially a hunk of wood with sides, and go off that way. See what's out there. And if you run out of food and water, oh well. And I'm sure they didn't have facilities back then either. I'm just saying, sit on the gunwale and whatever. But my contention is that these explorers back then were a lot braver than the explorers we have now, because now we've got modern GPS and all this stuff. These people didn't have that. These Polynesian people were large outrigger canoes, paddling. Yeah, that's exploring. I don't care who you are. Them some brave people. Doppelgangers. Doppelgangers are, for lack of a better term, doubles. This is an odd phenomenon, and it has been reported for thousands of years. And it's been reported all over the world. Different countries, different cultures, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different religions. Just, there seems to be no rhyme or reason to who this phenomena latches onto. So we have no idea. I can't explain it. Nobody can. But here's the basic gist of it. The idea is that people see a copy of themselves in different nearby locations. This is different than a haunting, because the person in question that you see, if you see a doppelganger, for example, the person is still alive. This is just a double that just appears. Okay? Crazy, isn't it? Many people seem to think it is a portent of their own demise. So if you see your own double, that's a sign that you're going to die. I don't know how accurate that is or whatever. If I see my own double, I'm going to laugh at him because it's an ugly old fat guy with no hair. Other people can apparently see these doubles. Many people have interacted with other people's doppelgangers. And there's a famous case. I honestly, I never even knew this was real. And then I was doing some research on something else, and I ran into this particular case, and I figured I better talk about this because this will give you more of an idea of how this stuff happens. And this is not a singular case. This has happened a lot throughout history. Thousands and thousands of years this has been going on, more than 1,000 years. The famous case of Emily, Emilie, Emily, Sagee, 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 I'm not sure how you pronounce it. She was a 32-year-old French woman. She worked in a bunch of different positions in a girls' school for 16 years. Emily never saw her own doppelganger, but other people did. This is the weird part. She never saw her own doppelganger. Other people saw it. and it was all over, not like in nearby rooms and things like that. Tons of other people, over 40 people, reported this doppelganger. They knew she was someplace else, and this wasn't her, but it was her. Okay? It's, like I said, other rooms, across campus, that kind of thing. Students, at one point, this doppelganger appeared at the desk, and the students saw it, but it was kind of semi-translucent, and so they got up and approached it. The doppelganger did not seem to notice them. One student ran her hand through the image, the doppelganger, and it was kind of like the image slowed her hand down as it went through, so it became harder to push through inside the body of this doppelganger, but it still went through. Okay. Now, this particular woman, Emily, ended up being fired over this because there were too many complaints. The students' parents were afraid that this woman was being afflicted by demons or ghosts or whatever. So, it was a serious event for her because she got fired over it. Now, there's a lot of different theories about this. Some of the theories are that the individual in question that has these doppelgangers around is a psychic of some kind and is able to project these figures. Unconsciously, not willing to do it, but, that kind of thing. It just accidentally they show up, Another theory is that this person is afflicted with something that allows other figures of them to show up from within the time stream. So in this case with this girl Emily, Sagee, I have no idea how to pronounce her last name, but anyway, her students saw the figure sitting at the desk. At some point, Emily had been sitting at the desk, which we know she had, or she was going to be sitting in the desk and it was from the future. So either a past or future version of her sitting in the desk where she was, or was going to, or had been sitting. That's a theory. Another theory is multiple universes. Multiple universes kind of touching a little bit. And this is the Emily in that other universe happened to be sitting there. She didn't notice them, so obviously, she wasn't aware, but, but for whatever reason, these doppelgangers do appear. They're very rare, obviously. Otherwise, everybody would be seeing them. But they do appear, and it is a serious situation. Again, don't know what causes them, but be on the lookout. If you see your loved one walking up the street towards you and they look kind of hazy, may not be them. It's called EVPs, Electronic Voice Phenomena. I hadn't heard anything about this until about 10 years ago. Longer than that, actually. Must have been about 16, 17 years ago. It's the first time I heard about it. They do these ghost hunting videos, and you see them, talking and trying to get answers from the ghosts, and they record them. That's basically what this is. This started a long time ago, in the 1840s to 1940s. There was a distinguished belief that the spirits of the dead can be contacted by mediums. Basically, new technologies like photography and recording devices said that they could be possibly captured, they could possibly capture ghosts. Now, that being said, these ideas got to be very, very popular. People like Thomas Edison gave a little bit of credence to it. Basically, what it boiled down to is these people really, really believed it. So, in parapsychology, in the field of ghost hunting, it has been found that in areas that have been deemed haunted, disembodied voices can sometimes be heard. Over time, investigators have found that if you ask questions while recording with tape recorders or digital recorders, sometimes the recording device will pick up answers. Now, usually it's very faint and sometimes it's garbled, but definitely voices and definitely in response to the questions. Now, excuse me, these are presumed to be the voices of the dead. Now, a lot of scientists discount this phenomena as a form of, let me get this right, P-A-R-E-I-D-O-L-I-A, pareidolia, something like that. Anyway, basically it's interpreting random sounds as voices in one's own language. So you hear a sound, and your mind interprets it as a voice that you can understand. So, and basically, they also consider it a form of pseudoscience and basically hoaxes. My contention is that these random sounds, they sure seem to interact and answer questions quite often. Now, I'm not saying these can't be faked. Of course they can be faked. In modern age, or digital age, with computers and laboratories, you can fake just about anything. Okay? I have heard things I can't explain. Before I get into that, though, another form of EVP deals with a specific device called a spirit box. What this is, it's a radio device that changes between radio frequencies very quickly. The idea is that ghosts can communicate on radio frequencies that don't have a signal. So, if you hear voices on the randomly and quickly changing frequencies, it may be ghosts trying to communicate with you. This is also called Spiricom, or it's also called a ghost box. If you want to do some more research, research Raudive, Raudive Voices. This man wrote a book called Breakthrough. Konstantin Raudive, Raudive, that's his name. He published his book in 1968, and it was a very groundbreaking book at the time. It became very important to a lot of different people. As a matter of fact, using his book, somebody, I can't remember her name, and I should have wrote it down. The American Association of Electronic Voice Phenomena, AA-EVP. It's a group, and they go around trying to get, hear voices from ghosts, and they're trying to make recordings. They're trying to prove it can be done. Now, here's my contention. I did a video a while back called My Paranormal Experiences. In that one, I told a story where my son and I went to the post office, and we came back, and we were coming into the house, and he ran ahead of me, and he was talking, and I heard a voice talking back. I thought it was my wife. Turns out my wife was in the shower. There was nobody there. This actually did in fact happen. I know it happened. I heard it myself. If I can hear it, it can probably be recorded. Okay? That's my contention. My belief is there's something to this. Now, when you're watching the weird ghost TV series and all that, where they hunt ghosts, all that, anything that they put on TV can be faked. Anything that you hear, anything that you see, they have special effects wizards. They can fake anything. My contention is, I know what I heard. If I had a recording device handy and could have recorded it, we could have heard the conversation. I know what I heard. So, electronic voice phenomena may not be the bunk that it's made out to be. So, disappearing towns, and this is kind of disturbing. So, keep that in mind. The ending of this is going to be very disturbing. Throughout history, there have been mysterious disappearances and inexplicable vanishings, and we've all heard of, Amelia Earhart, Virginia Dare, that kind of thing, D.B. Cooper, all kinds of weird stuff like that. But what I'm talking about here is where they have a town or a village, and the entire population of the village just up and disappears. Nobody can tell where they went. There's no record of them after that. They're gone. They vanish. And people tend to scoff at stuff like this, but I was doing a little bit of research, and I found that there's a disturbing amount of these that actually happen, and it's not in any localized area. A lot of them happened in the United States, but in the United States and Canada. But and some of them have kind of obviously been explained, but nobody's actually explained it. It does sound far-fetched, but like I said, there's a disturbing amount of these. I put a few of these down just for reference. Urkhammer, Iowa. Urkhammer, Urkhammer, Iowa, in 1928. Huerverde, Hoerverde, Huerverde, in Brazil from 1923. Ashley, Kansas, 1952. I'm going to talk about that one here in a minute. Angikuni, Angikuni, Canada, in 1930. And of course, everybody's heard of the Roanoke colony in Virginia. Everybody seems to think that the first Americans got those, what they call Native Americans, Indians got them, but nobody can really explain it, and there's no record of it. So the people showed up, they went to England for supplies, they came back, and everybody's gone. Nobody knows what happened to them. They're still trying to figure out exactly what did happen to them. Excuse me. The ending of this video, I tried not to make it disturbing, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. I talked about Ashley, Kansas in 1952. The authorities had before the town completely, all the people vanished. The authorities had many reports of a small black opening in the sky following an earthquake. So there was an earthquake and then a small black opening in the sky. These are the official reports. Okay. Then there was a mysterious phone call to the police stating that the dead had returned and were after them. The caller apparently was in hiding in a closet somewhere in her house, and she was frantic. She was whispering frantically on this phone call, and the policeman was the officer that was talking to her was trying to get information and things like that. In the background, glass could be heard breaking, and then there was an interaction with somebody that the caller called her dead child. And this dead child's voice was heard in the background. So, whatever the hell is going on with these towns, it may not be normal. It may be supernatural in origin. Because if a black hole opens up in the sky, I don't care who you are, that's not normal. Earthquakes, I can understand. A black hole in the sky, not so much. And the dead coming back, oh my lord. So when you can do some more research into these, some of the more I listed some of the more prevalent ones. There was one in Canada, this Angikuni village, where trappers had showed up and they still had cooking fires going. They had, it was like the people were there 5 minutes before and just vanished, but there were no tracks leading out. It was like it's like the Enterprise showed up and beamed everybody up, and it's crazy. This thing with Ashley, Kansas from 1952, I'm going to try to do some more research on that, because that's freaky. When the police get a phone call that the dead are coming back and they're after them, and then they have an interaction and then everybody disappears, yeah, something's up with that. The books and the videos are called Missing 411. There's a man named David Paulides, and he is a former law enforcement officer and researcher, and he researches old missing persons cases. I first heard about it on Coast to Coast AM, and he is a regular on that program. If you want to hear him, you can go to YouTube and pull up Coast to Coast AM, and there's tons of videos of him there, with all manner of different variations of the missing persons thing. David Paulides has written a series of books titled Missing 411, wherein he details strange missing persons cases. He also has several movies of the same name. Evidently, this is some of the disturbing things about this. Evidently, national parks do not keep track of missing persons. Excuse me. Um, People of all ages and backgrounds go missing, and nobody keeps track of them or reports them. I mean, I'm sure they're reported, but they're not by the Park Service. Um, Basically, these people go out of sight for just a few minutes or seconds, sometimes seconds, but and they're never seen again. Or if they are seen, they're dead, or they were just mysterious under very mysterious circumstances if they were ever found. Small children under the age of 10 go missing and are found dozens of miles away, over hills and across rivers. There's no way they could have got there. You know, bodies and items are found. Where their personal effects are found in areas that have already been searched dozens of times by lots of search and rescue people, including dogs. So search and rescue will come in and search an area extensively a dozen times or more, 50 times even, I've heard. And then later on, somebody's walking by there on the way to someplace else, and they'll find, their shoes or, their clothing or whatever. And lots of weird stuff happens too. Clothes and items found in very suspicious ways, like an item where the clothes are inside out, but the shoes are placed right by a rock, just like that, like they took them off and set them there. Um, a thermos with the top off and the cup sitting there on a rock, and nobody around. Um, and lots of weird stuff too with reports of people who are found. Experienced hunters go missing. These are armed people who know the area that they're in really, really well. And these missing people they're in clusters all over the country, all over the world. As a matter of fact, there's a cluster right here in northern New Mexico. It's weird. All over. One of the biggest areas is Yosemite Park. And there's another thing about this. Little kids who are missing and are found later tell strange stories, like they were helped by Mr. Wolf or Mr. Bear, or in Australia where it happens, kangaroos. One kid reported the big hairy man, who we can only assume is a Bigfoot. I don't know. There was one report where the people are watching, and they're in the tent and they're watching, and there's the little kids right by the opening of the tent, and a bear walks by, scoops the kid up in its arm like this, and just walks away with it. And bears don't generally do that I'm aware of. But my point is, that's been reported. If you get a chance, check out some of the videos. If you really are interested, if it seems to pique your interest, check out the books Missing 411, and they're talking about hunters and all kinds of different people that go missing. The theories behind this: alien abduction, Bigfoot, portals to other dimensions, portals to other times. These stories are so weird and so varied, and there's underlying things, case files where certain circumstances, certain criteria are met to make it fit one of these. But other than that, the circumstances are so varied and so weird, it could literally be anything. If you're going out into the woods, Polites will give you a list of stuff to take. Keep extra food in your pocket. Energy bars and nothing else. You can eat one of those a day and call it good for a while. Bottles of water in your pocket. Plenty of food and water. One of those satellite phones. A personal transponder beacon like they have on Deadliest Catch for the boats. Things like that. Stuff so you can be found if you get lost. But a lot of these people have that stuff and they still go missing. So I don't know. Living statues. Yeah, you read that right. Give you a little bit of backstory. This is an actual real illness. It does occur, and people still don't know what causes it. From 1917 to 1928, 500,000 people, 500,000 people, were afflicted with a mysterious illness. It's a ghastly condition. The victims are alive and conscious. Okay, so they're aware. They know what's going on. Problem is, they're some sort of an inexplicable frozen state. They can't move, but they're aware. They're conscious. Imagine that. That would just be a hell of a thing. This is officially titled, let me get this right, I wrote it down, Encephalitis lethargica, EL. It's also known as the sleeping sickness. So people are out, they're unconscious, they look unconscious, but they're aware, and they're completely conscious, but they just can't move. It started in Europe and quickly spread all around the world. It reached epidemic levels in North America, Europe, and India by 1919. That's 2 years, epidemic levels all around the world. And keep in mind, in 1917, they didn't have, transcontinental airliners like they have today. They had some airplanes that could fly around, but not like they have nowadays. So getting a disease to spread that quickly is, that's something to consider. About 1/3 of the people that were afflicted died. That's a death rate of about 33%, which is a lot higher than the COVID thing we're undergoing right now. Of the remaining people, half of them were unable to physically interact with the world around them, but were fully aware. Like, for the rest of their life. It's ridiculous. This is a nightmare. The other half of the remaining 66% actually, recovered. So they were, that's how we know what was going on. And imagine being unconscious, or at least, seeming unconscious, but fully aware, cognizant, being able to hear and being aware of what's around you. That would be a nightmare, just a nightmare. And like I said, the cause of this is unknown. There's lots of theories out there. I brought the 3 prevalent ones, I guess the 3 most prevalent ones. You got to go the whole standby alien abductions, as people are saying, oh, they were abducted by aliens, and that's how they were brought back. That's a lot of alien abductions for 1917 to 1919. 500,000 people, that's a lot, The next one was some sort of a government conspiracy. I don't know exactly how that would be. I'm thinking if that were the case, it would be something along the lines of governments experimenting with different drugs and things like that. But I can't see how that would happen. And the last one to me seems more reasonable. It is a brain inflammation due to a rare strain of Streptococcus. And this sleeping sickness, this encephalitis lethargica, it does reappear. It's still out there. It reappears sporadically in 1950s Europe. They had a wave of it for a short time, and in China, I want to say it was in 2010, there was a young girl that was afflicted by it for I want to say 12 days. So it's still out there. And nobody knows what causes it or anything. They, like I said, they have a working theory, but what the hell do we do, Superhumans. By now, the entire world is familiar with the popular Marvel and DC movie franchises, and everybody's loved comic book for decades. I've collected since I was 6. I stopped a while back, but my point is, everybody loves them superheroes, But superheroes with actual superpowers are just fiction, right? They're just made up, right? Not so fast. In the last decade, reports from around the world have detailed people exhibiting all manner of superhuman powers. I wrote a few of them down, and this is not a complete list, by the way. I just wrote a few down to make the point. There's a girl named Natasha Demking from Russia. She has documented X-ray vision. She can see inside people. Now, she's not a doctor, so she gets the diagnoses a little off sometimes. But she can see inside them. She literally has X-ray vision. There's a girl named Emma Tablet. She's Filipino. She's from the Philippines. She starts fires with her mind. She has pyrokinesis, or kind of like the fire starter, the Stephen King thing. Yeah, she starts fires with her mind, and this is documented. These are all documented. Okay. There's a man named. I'm going to try to get his name right here. Deepak Jangra. He's from India. He's an Indian individual. He apparently is immune to high voltage electricity, 11,000 volts, and ooh, that's cool. You know, he's touching live wires to his tongue and shit like that. 11,000 volts. Yeah, that's a little freaky. There's a kid in Croatia named, I'm going to try to get his name right here because everybody deserves to have their name said properly. Ivan Stoiljokovic. Stoiljkovic. And I murdered that name, and I apologize to him. So you deserve to have your name right, sir. All right, this kid is magnetic. He attracts spoons and forks and pots and pans. Yeah, he's magnetic. Excuse me. Like I said, there's many, many more. I just wrote down a few here to get your attention because this is all documented. Every one of these is documented. None of them are faked. And there's a lot out there that you're kind of, I don't know if that's superhuman or not. But, like the people who are like extremely smart prodigies at a very young age. People who can count and do math phenomenally fast in their head. I don't know if that qualifies as superhuman, but there's a lot of those out there. Each and every one of these that I'm talking about here that I mentioned have been tested and verified. They're all absolute fact and absolutely real. In Marvel comic books, they have a type of a superhero called a mutant. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's in Marvel comics it's called Homo Superior as opposed to Homo Sapien. And the mutants are the Homo Superiors, where they have superhuman powers. Mutants. Professor Charles Xavier in the Marvel Comics runs a school for mutants. These people, all of them, may very well qualify to attend his academy. And it'd be a heck of a team here. You got a girl with X-ray vision, you got a girl who starts fires, you got a dude that's immune to electricity, and another kid, a boy that's magnetic. Boom, right there, your superhuman team. Add in some kid that's real strong, and there's a lot of those, by the way. Add in some kid with super strength, and you got a team right there. That's the X-Men right there, buddy. There was a man named Maurice Frenchy. Let me get his name right. Theriault. I'm butchering that name, and I apologize. Everybody deserves to have their name said right, especially this guy here. He was a victim, and at least in my opinion, he was. So I want to get his name right because he deserves at least that. Maurice, I'm going to call him Frenchy. It's easier to say. Frenchy was a troubled man. He was an abused child, possibly sexually abused, and had a significant violent criminal background. So he wasn't... Saying he was a good man would be a bit of a stretch, but we can't say he was all bad because if he really was possessed, you can't really blame the victim. You know what I'm saying? If he's a victim of possession, you can't really blame him for what he did. Now, I understand why there's a legality about, you don't want to let people on, murderers claim demonic possession because soon everybody will be possessed. But you got to pay attention when it's real, and this, I'm thinking this might have been real. I think it might have been. Let me explain. Frenchy claimed to have extraordinary powers, including increased strength, knowledge of hidden information, and the ability to be in multiple places at once. Now, I cannot say if any of that is documented. I looked, I couldn't find anything, but to me, there was enough witnesses that it might have actually been true. I'm not sure. However, let's get on to his personality and his background. His irrational and sudden violent outbursts finally prompted his family to call in famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. A lot of people think Ed and Lorraine Warren were charlatans. They were fakes, hoaxers, as it were. But they've investigated a lot of different phenomena, and they are, in the paranormal world, they are considered authorities. So I'm going to go with that. After the Warrens investigated the situation, it was determined that Frenchie was demonically possessed. Bishop Robert McKenna was called in to perform an exorcism. Sorry, I had to let the dogs out. Now the bishop came and did his thing, did the exorcism. And now usually when you see pictures and videos of an exorcism, you see the victim thrashing around, you see odd facial expressions, and you hear incomprehensible guttural languages and growling, and that's kind of what you expect. And any and all, now let's be fair, any and all of that can be faked. There are some people who thrash around to the degree that they're dislocating joints and breaking their own bones. That's a bit much for a hoax, in my opinion, but theoretically it could be. Here's the thing that gets me about Frenchie's exorcism. The video of Frenchie's exorcism is another story entirely. On video, plain and clear, you see the skin along the left side of his face bubble, like it's boiling, bubble up, and fester. Right there, right on video. You see it happen. And you see a crack open up above his left eye on his forehead. It's clear as day. You can't miss it. It's right there. It's not that. Now, the original article that I saw had the video of the affliction on his face. I had to do some research and find the entire video, and you can see it. It's clear, and then boom, it just, bam, it's right there. It literally appears on film. It's crazy. The video, now keep in mind, this was done in the early 80s. This video predates CGI technology, so that can be ruled out. It's a slow morph that would require some serious Hollywood special effects in a studio in order to fake. And there's documentation where none of that was used. There's affidavits and testimony where none of that was used. The only thing I can think of is that this is a real case of demonic possession. And this guy, he was a violent criminal. Let's not mince words there. But evidently the exorcism was successful for a time. I'm gonna go into the conclusion of the story here shortly, and it's not a happy one. But my contention is this exorcism had an effect. I don't know if the demon or demons left, or if they just submerged for a while to hide, or what. I don't know. But he was a changed man after the exorcism. Now I'm going to get to the conclusion of the story. And again, not a happy one. 3 years after the exorcism, 3 years later, Frenchie relapsed into his old violent ways. He attempted to murder his wife before committing suicide. Luckily, she survived, but there's mental disorders, and anybody who's had childhood trauma, yes, it could have been a mental trauma of some kind. But I don't know of a mental trauma that could make your face fester up like that in boils, and a crack in your forehead open up like that on film, plain like that. Mental trauma is a bad thing. It's a very powerful thing. It's difficult for people who've suffered it to deal with. But that's a whole different critter right there. You have to see the video. If you get a chance to find it. It's beyond scary. It's horrific. And anybody who's suffering from that, I really, my heart goes out to them. That's bad. Most people enjoy dancing. Even I have been known to bust a move from time to time. Usually my dance moves don't really do much except for embarrass my wife. I really suck at it. But this is not what this video is about. This video is about documented events that happened back in the 1500s. And this is, again, documented events. They're written down as absolute fact. Okay? The basis for all knowledge is what's written before. We know this happened. We can expound on that, and now this can go on. Well, this in fact did happen. It was written down, and it's a fact. In July of 1518, in the city of Strasbourg, which was, by the way, then part of the Holy Roman Empire. It wasn't part of Germany at that time. It was part of the Holy Roman Empire. Hundreds of people were struck with a sudden and seemingly uncontrollable urge to dance. They just walked out there and started swaying and then dancing and doing whatever. A woman known as Frau Troffea, Troffea. I want to say her name right because everybody deserves to have their name right. Troffea. I'm going to say it's Troffea. If it's wrong, I apologize. A woman known as Frau Troffea was the first person afflicted. Within weeks, dozens more were dancing uncontrollably. And we're not talking they dance and then they go to sleep and wake up and dance some more. They just dance straight through. Okay? By August, the dancing epidemic had claimed as many as 400 victims. Local physicians were clueless, and so they prescribed the afflicted just gyrate the fever away. That's what they said. They figured, we don't know what's causing it. It's dancing. Let them dance. Maybe they'll get it out of their system, essentially. A stage was built, and professional dancers were brought in. A band was hired to provide music. And that sounds almost like a comedy routine. Yeah, they danced and danced and danced, you know. Sounds kind of funny. Until you get to this next part. Many dancers collapsed from sheer exhaustion. Hundreds died from strokes and heart attacks because they couldn't stop dancing. Their internal organs just couldn't take it. Finally, in September, the dancers were sent to a mountaintop shrine to pray for absolution because they didn't know what the hell else to do. Maybe it's, maybe they were sinners and God struck them or something. I don't know. And this was not an isolated incident, by the way, because similar incidents took place in Switzerland, Germany, and Holland. So it was fairly widespread. And we're talking hundreds and hundreds of people afflicted, and a lot of them died from exhaustion and heart attacks and strokes and other things. This was a serious event. There was a number of theories propagated, and I wrote down the three that seemed to be the most widely accepted. All right. First was a religious one, Saint Vitus. I can't read my own writing. Saint Vitus. Excuse me. Saint Vitus, a Catholic saint, believed to be able to curse people to dance. For some reason, he didn't like these people and zotted them. That's the primary theory. The secondary theories were that the dancers were in a cult, some sort of a religious cult that propagated the dancing situation. That's a hell of a cult to dance them to death, I'm just saying. And the third one, what seems like the most scientifically based one, but I'm not sure exactly how much investigation went into it. The third one were that the dancers accidentally ingested something called ergot, E-R-G-O-T, ergot, whatever, however you want to pronounce it. It's a form of a toxic mold, which produces spasms and hallucinations. So it is possible they'd ingested this, saw things, and started spasming, and people mistook it for dancing. That's a possibility. The description that for this woman, Frau Troffea, was that she's out there swaying and gyrating like that, which doesn't seem much like spasms to me, but hey, I wasn't there, I don't know. My contention is nobody knows what caused this. And this was a real event. It happened in multiple places around the world: Switzerland, Germany, Holland, Strasbourg, and the Holy Roman Empire. And people died from it. So it was a serious event. We still don't know.